Hi everyone, my name is Yakshini Priya and welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little different to my usual art tutorials and lessons, my usual content. I'm actually in front of the camera and I haven't been doing this kind of video for a very long time. I did do it a few times before but not in recent days. But I wanted to actually come and just speak to you and discuss basically storage of your canvases. That's basically the topic of the video today. Now, I found that storing of canvases is very important. Whether you're using stretch canvases, box canvases, or panel boards, it's important to store them correctly, even your completed paintings or your extra blank canvases, because if they're not stored correctly, they can get damaged, and that obviously is costly. And if it's a completed painting, it's going to obviously mean that you ruin a painting, and if you sell your paintings, it's even worse because I was initially having my canvases stored on the floor between my cupboards, and they were just stacked up. The extra canvases, paintings were stacked up or standing up against the wall. But I realized, especially from previously having damaged some of those canvases, I realized that storage is very important, especially for completed paintings as well. So what can potentially happen to your canvases? Firstly, if you store them directly on the floor, if you have a leak of any sort, water can damage the canvas. So a new canvas, although it comes sealed in a plastic film, it can still have holes and water gets into everything. So it can get into the canvas and it can still damage the canvas and cause watermarks on the canvas. And what I have noticed in the past, where I did have that happen to one of my canvases, the areas that get wet with the water, although we paint with acrylics, we use water as well if you're using acrylics, but those areas get damaged with the watermark to the extent that even though you paint over, it can sometimes not catch the paint for some reason. I've seen that happen on one of my canvases. And then another thing that can happen is that even if it catches the paint after the canvas is thoroughly dried, it leaves a watermark. Now the front you can paint over it, but the back of the canvas still shows the watermark. So that'll impact on you having the ability to sell the painting, because obviously buyers are going to look at the canvas and they're going to see, okay, but the back got watermarks on it, so it's a damaged canvas. And I personally wouldn't want to purchase a painting that has damage on the canvas. So that is one damage you can have, water damage. Any kind of leak happens, or even if you spill something, it can leak over to where the canvases are and it can damage your canvases. Same goes for your paintings. And another thing that can happen is canvases can get dented, especially when it comes to stretch canvases and box canvases. They can get dented, they can get scratched. Now dents can be removed and fixed depending how badly they are dented. But if there's a slight dent in the canvas, I have seen this before where I purchased a canvas and when I got it there was a slight dent, then that can be fixed, a slight dent, because you just apply some water with a spray bottle and then use a hairdryer on the back of the canvas, and it should firm up the canvas and remove that dent. I have had to do that a number of times before and that works. But if it's a serious dent and if it caused a slight hole in the canvas or a rip in the canvas, that's basically your canvas is ruined and it's damaged. It's not easy to fix. So that's another damage that can happen. Now when you have paintings that are completed, you can keep them as well and they can get scratched. So paint can come off, it can get scratched, it can get dusty, it can get even the paintings touching one another can also potentially scratch the canvas and damage your painting, and you'll have these lines all over the painting. Now if the painting is varnished as well, even though it's varnished, if you do store them incorrectly, they can get damaged as well. Now when it comes to panels, canvas panels, those are the ones on the board, those panels have to be stored flat. So I don't use them often anymore, but I used to use them in the past. But what I do, I have them stacked on my cupboard. So on one of my cupboards in the studio, it's a flat surface and it's straight, and then I just lay them down flat. The largest canvas at the bottom, or the panels, and then the smaller ones in the center of the canvas. I center it so that it's balanced out, and I just leave them stacked up, and they're in the original film covering, plastic film covering, so they are protected. And then you can obviously put over a cloth or a plastic over, or put them into a plastic to keep them from getting dusty. But that's how I basically store the panels. I keep them on a flat surface. Usually the top of a cupboard is perfect because the cupboard is flat. It must be a straight flat cupboard, and it must not be a warped surface, because if you put it on a warped surface, it is going to warp, and then you're going to have the panels that are going to be bent. So that's why it's not advisable to store canvases standing upright, especially the panels, to store them upright. If you store panel canvases upright, it can warp over time. So it's important to store them flat. So if you do have a panel paintings, you can store them upright, but make sure that they are basically in a very straight manner and they're not having anything press on them in any particular way. There must be nothing pressing on them from the back or the front, which can basically damage the canvas and warp the canvas. So that's how I store my panels, flat on a surface or on a flat surface. For me, keeping it out of the way is important, so I just keep it on top of one of my cupboards in my studio, and it just stays flat, and they are in plastic, so they can't get damaged or with dust or anything like that. So that's how I store the panels. Now, when it comes to the stretch canvases and the box canvases, I don't really use box canvases. I would like to try working on them, but at the moment I'm only using stretch canvases. And those canvases are very in different sizes, and I always have extra canvases. So I prefer to have them on hand. So when I have an idea, I just go and see if there's a particular size I'm looking for, and then I pick it from my own lot of extra canvases. But if it's a particular project where I need a specific size, then I obviously have to go to the store and buy that particular canvas and then complete the project that I'm working on. So when it comes to my stretch canvases, I store them standing upright in a cupboard, and I found that's the best solution. I had them before stacked up on the floor between my cupboards, and that was not working for me because one, it made my studio very, very, very untidy, and secondly, they could get damaged. As I said, they're directly on the floor, and even if you're in an area where there's a lot of moisture, that can damage your canvases. So it's important to keep them lifted up and not on the floor. Elevate them to some point, and also to have them in a place where they do not get so dusty. They must not get dust, especially your finished paintings. You don't want the dust to eat away at your paintings and also dirty your paintings. So what I did is I actually had help from my dad and my sister, and we actually built up these cupboards because it had to be done on a cost-effective budget because I don't have a lot of money to spend on cupboards. And I noticed that if I were to get it made somewhere, if I were to find someone who could make it for me, it's going to cost me a lot of money. So this was easier. I went to a hardware store, bought the wood with the melamine coating. It's easy to clean and wipe off, and it just looks better. And then we just built it up ourselves and I put it in my studio, and my canvases and my paintings all have a place to go, and they're in one designated area in your studio. So if you don't have as much canvases and paintings, you don't need a large one. You can just get the wood for a smaller one and build a smaller cupboard or little, you will see, I will show you the cupboard that we built for my canvases. But that's what I do. I basically stand them up in the cupboard in a particular way as well. You will see that when I come to showing it to you, just so they don't get damaged. So it's very important to store your paintings and your canvases in a very secure way and in a particular way so that you don't damage them. Another thing also to worry about when it comes to stretch canvases is try not to stack them, because if you do stack them, eventually sometimes they can get damaged. The frames can get warped, or they can even get you can get the indentations from the canvas wood at the back, and the staples at the back can indent if you got it on top of the front of another canvas. So be very careful to not do that when you are storing your canvases. So I'm going to now show you my storage and how I store my canvases, and maybe that can be helpful to you, and you'll find that may be a solution for your canvases. It's also out of the way and all together. I do have quite a bit of canvases because I like to have them on hand to use. But as I always say with all art supplies, you don't need to have as many canvases. You can buy them as you need. But if you do have extra canvases and you have paintings that you've completed and you want them to be protected, then this is a potential way that you can use this method that I've used, which is cost effective. And it was a little bit of work to put it together. That's why I needed my help of my dad and my sister to help me get it done. But at the end, it was very basically helpful to me, and it worked for me. So it's perfect for my storage, and I finally, after years, have discovered a way to store my canvas. So let me take you to the cupboard that I designed, and then we built it up, and show you how I store my canvases. Okay, so this is basically my storage. I've got some of the paintings just on display easels on the top, but this is how I store my canvases. So you can see this is the entire cupboard that I designed, and with the help of my dad and my sister, we built it up. You do need help to build it. It was quite heavy, some of the panels, because there are actually two of them. You can see I've got two of them here. So one is going across here, and then there's another one going over there. So this is the white finish that I chose. It was a cheaper option, and you can see these are how I got my canvases stored. I've got my larger canvases on this side, and then I've got different size of the smaller ones, and then the medium ones at the bottom. You can see I designed the shelves to fit the exact sizes that I needed to accommodate. And then over here are all my finished paintings, and these are how I store them. Now I'm going to just show you closer how I store them so they don't get damaged. Now these are the stretch canvases, so you can see I keep the smaller ones at the back of the bigger ones, and I make sure that they are not pressing against the canvas. It must be flush against the wall. So when you look, it's flush against the backing of the cupboard or the side of the cupboard, and you can see over here nothing is touching the canvases. Also, another thing is that I let the side that got the back of the frame of the canvas lean onto the side of the panel, and I let the front of the canvas basically lean against the front of the next canvas, and then I reverse it again. I keep the back of the frame side of the canvas balancing against the frame of the canvas. So that's how I store them, so that I don't get any marks or any indentations from the staples or from the frame of the canvas onto the front of my canvas when I am basically storing them. And you can see I do the same thing. Here I've got a smaller one. It's very lightweight, but you can see it's the back of the canvas against the back of the bigger one. And then I've got them again back to back, or front to front actually. These two, you can see this one is the two fronts are touching, so that way you don't have damage to the edges of it. And I've done the same for these ones. Then when you come here, okay, this is actually just a watercolor board. Let's take that away. So here we've got my different size canvases. You can see I've got the round and oval canvases at the back, at the bottom, and then I've got the larger one in front. Again, they are front to front so that they don't damage, because as you can see, if you look here, you'll see there's a lot of the folds and the staples on the back of the wood of the canvas. So if I were to put this against the front of another one, it can cause those little dents to show on my front of the canvas. So be very careful about that. So you can see all of these are also, you can stack them like this if they are about the same size, or not stack them but keep them if they're the same size. But I prefer, like, these are my more expensive canvases, so I've got them front to front and then back to back. Now these two were not, I was not very happy with these canvases, so I'm just got them kept here. But with my more expensive ones, I do store them back to back and with the fronts to front. Same goes with the bottom. I've got the medium size canvases there, and you can see I've got them also stored in the same manner, back to back as well, and then front to front like that. Now when it comes to your finished paintings, you have, like I've got you the panels. As I said, panels shouldn't be stored upright unless they're not getting pressed, because if I were to put any weight onto the front of this panel of this painting, so say for instance I want to put this painting and then I put something against the front of it, it can basically warp the painting and then the painting can get damaged. So try to store them where nothing is pressing on them if you do have them upright, especially with paintings, because stacking them one on top of the other upright from the shelf down can damage them. But new canvases or canvas panels can be stored that way, because you don't have any artwork that can get scratched. So now when it comes to my stretch canvas paintings, as you can see, I've got a piece of this felt. This is a more of a paper sort of a felt, and I just cut them out in a particular size to match the paintings, and I basically put them between every painting. So you'll see all the paintings are there, and I got one between every one of them. So all my paintings are safe and they're secure, and they are not they will not be able to get damaged in any way, because they are stacked or standing up against each other, but there is a sheet of the felt between them which will protect them from getting any damage. So that's how I store those ones. And then over here I've got my owl painting as well, and this one was quite a big large round painting, but you can see I've got some smaller paintings at the back, and I've also got this little piece of polystyrene, which you normally get it in even in your packaging of your canvases. When you order them, it comes in there. You just can cut out a sheet and just keep it in front of a painting if you don't want it to get damaged, because that can't damage the painting. It is very light and it can just slip between the paintings to protect the painting at the back. Although this side, the two paintings are basically not touching one another. One is bigger than the other, but that's how you can protect them. Now at the bottom you can see I again got the smaller canvases at the back, and then I've got the larger one in front so that it doesn't damage, or my painting doesn't get damaged. And then over here I've got the larger one in front, and I've got the smaller ones at the back. You are storing your paintings. You can see with the panels I do have them stacked. Now you can put a sheet of the felt between each of these as well, but in this case these paintings are some really old paintings that I've done, so I just got them, or not these two, sorry, some of these are very old paintings that I've done, so I just got them stacked. They are all varnished, and I just tend to not basically move them around so they're not basically rubbing on each other, which they can cause some scratches. And then over here you can see I've got my largest painting that I've painted. This one was a bit large. You can see it sticks out of the cupboard. I didn't want the cupboard to be too outwards, to be too big, but you can see I've got these smaller ones at the back, and then there's just some incomplete paintings that I'm working on the set. So basically that is how my storage is for my canvases. I kept one cupboard for the one cupboard was built for my paintings, and the other one was built for my empty canvases, for just extra storage, because they take a lot of space, especially with these panels. They do each take a lot of space, especially if you have multiple sizes. So it's very important that you have them stored in a correct way in order to save them and protect them. And another thing you'll notice is that I do have them elevated. So you can see I've put these, let me zoom in so you can have a look at it. I've got these little legs that I've put underneath them, both of the cupboards, just so that it can protect the cupboard from getting any water onto the canvases. If there's any leaks or anything like that, then nothing can get onto the canvases. So it is elevated to an extent from the ground. Like I said, these are really large canvases. These are 30 by 40 inch canvases, so they do stick out a bit. But like I said, I didn't want the cupboard to be standing out too much, because as you can see I do have a couch here, so I need space to pass between the couch and the cupboard, so I don't want it to take too much of space. So basically that is how I store my canvases and how I store my paintings, and that I think is the best way. Remember, always when it comes to stretch canvases and box canvases, store them upright in a standing position, back to back and front to front. And if you've got panels, then just store them on a flat surface. Since, like for example, this is a flat surface, you could have a shelf just like this. If you don't want to put it on a cupboard, I've got mine on my cupboard, but you could have it on a flat surface like this, and then you just stack them one on top of the other. Then they obviously won't get damaged, because those are just panels and they won't get warped, so they'll keep their straightness, and they won't get damaged, and they won't have a curve to them. But when you have your finished panels, you can store them like I did there at the bottom. You can just keep them standing upright, but make sure that there isn't excess weight pressing on them, which can cause them to get warped as well. Because like I said, panels can't really be standing upright, especially if they're different sizes, they can warp. So for example, if I had the larger size ones, if I try to stack these ones against that, they can warp the larger one. But these are more or less, all of them are the same size, so there's no need to worry about that, because they can't warp each other, they're all the same size. So basically that is how I store my canvases and how I store my finished paintings. So that's basically how I store my canvases. Remember, panels, canvas panels, store them on a flat surface. As I said, I store them on top of my cupboard, one on top of the other, the largest at the bottom and then smaller ones on top. You can cover them with a plastic, or put them into a plastic bag, or cover them with a cloth to keep them from getting dusty. And another, with the stretch canvases and box canvases, it's best to store them upright, stay in a standing position. Either the front of each canvas is facing each other, and then the wood parts facing each other, so it's back to back and front to front. So try to store them that way, and your finished paintings, try to store them with something between them, and I would prefer to use something like felt, which I do have. This is a more of a papery sort of a felt, but it is thick enough that it can basically be a buffer between each canvas, so that the canvas back does not press onto the painting front of the next painting, so you don't damage your paintings or scratch your finished paintings. And then your finished panel paintings, you can set them up in the same size, but make sure there's no pressure put onto larger canvases, the panels, because that can cause warping. And also make sure they're evenly placed against the sides, so that there's no room for it to get warped over time. And then when you're storing them flat, you can store them flat, but just not completed paintings, because that can scratch when you move them about, unless you have a piece of felt between them. But your new canvases, you can stack them one on top of the other, largest at the bottom, smallest on the top, and they do have the plastic covers on them, so they do have protection, but they won't really get scratched if they cover the plastic, because there isn't those are stuck with glue, and they don't have staples at the back, so they won't have that metal that can scratch. So I guess that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you found maybe an idea or solution for your storage of your canvases and your finished paintings. This is just how I do it, but I just wanted to share it with you, that maybe it can help someone, because I've been struggling with this for years, and I had no idea where to put my paintings and my canvases, and I've lost quite a few canvases, brand new canvases, and I've also lost a couple of paintings that I got damaged because of the storage. So it's very important to store them in a correct manner, and for me, I see this works, and having a place where they designated, where everything goes into one place, is perfect for me, and I think this is a perfect solution that I found. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.